Hi guys, this is Fenway, and today we're going to talk about hot utils and how to use loadouts. We're going to make a loadout, optimize the loadout, and push it out to the game, and also save a baseline our entire roster so we have a way to get back to square one. I'm going to assume for introductory purposes here that you already have an account, you're already able to log in. If you can't do that, then just hit us up on Discord and we can straighten that out with you. I'm using a PC, but this can be done on phone. Your experience might be different there depending on which, Android versus Apple, or whether or not which browser you're using and such. But for right now, I'm going to use PC for convenience purposes, but it can be done on the phone. And I'm going to be as quick as I can here, so if something doesn't make sense, you can just go back and rewatch it. I got a lot to show you, and I don't want this to be a 30-minute video, so I'm going to go pretty quick. First, I want to talk about Hot Utils data and their process. Hot Utils maintains a copy of your game data, roster, mods, etc. It does not directly and immediately change anything as we play with this and sandbox it and experiment a little bit. It copies it from the game when you tell it to. We experiment with it on our own in the Hot Utils universe. And then when we tell it to and we're ready, we push it back, the data back to the game. What gets pushed really depends on what you have in the loadout. More of that in a minute. But Hot Utils does not have any way to delete any characters. It's just there for mods. It can do lots of mod stuff like leveling and slicing and even selling, but nothing I show you today will involve any of that. This is 100% safe for just moving mods. But just so this makes sense in your head, so you're playing in the game and it has its own data at EA. When we tell it to, it's going to copy that data from EA over to Hot Utils. We're going to play in here. And then when we tell it to, we will push as many characters and mods as we want to, locations, back over to the game when we want to. And that's what this part is all about. That's what the demo is for today. So just so you get an idea of when we're working and what part of the universe we're working in, Hot Utils does not make anything real time, anything happen in game. So you have a complete separation of duties there. And I hope that makes sense. Maybe it'll make more sense a little bit later. But I want to make sure you're clear on that before we go too far. Okay. One quick point of order also is that when Hot Utils is talking to EA to get that data, it'll break the game connection. This is exactly the same thing that happens when you go to the web store. If you click anything on the web store and you redeem it, if you're in the game, it's going to break it. So because only one app can talk to EA at any given time, it can be the game, it could be the web store, it could be Hot Utils. But it is only one app at a time. So in your head, be very single-threaded on this. Don't do any Hot Utils stuff while in the background you might have some Naboo run going and accidentally try and push something in the game because it's going to kill what you're doing in Naboo. Be single-threaded, one thing at a time. And while you're doing battling stuff and other stuff in-game, don't be doing Hot Utils stuff as far as pushing and pulling. Okay? All right. What is a loadout? Well, a loadout is, you've already seen this in game anyway. A loadout is 6 predefined mods that we want to put on a single character, but a loadout in Hot Utils is much bigger. It can be for an entire set of characters, like a team of 5. It can be for several teams. It can be for your entire roster. We'll show you some of that. And the last piece of order is, in order to move mods around, the mods need some elbow room in your environment. You're allowed to have 500 unassigned mods at any given time in the game. You may have seen that when you're trying to move mods, if you've done that in game where it says it doesn't have enough space to do that. I'm pretty lax about cleaning up my mods, but if you've ever capped out, you're going to have to clean that up in order to get stuff done here. So Hot Utils has a way to show you that. In fact, now that we're at the screen here and I've actually logged into Hot Utils, that's what this number here means. I have 432 unassigned mods out of a maximum space of 500. So that's enough space to usually get stuff done. You don't want it much higher than 450 or you're going to start running into some problems. Okay, so now with all of that introductory stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get to where we can start creating loadouts. Okay, so to get there, you want to go over to this mods option here on the left. And then you want to go down to loadouts. And in here, you'll see everything that you have defined, if you have any at the moment. Like we talked about now, Hot Utils has to have your current information. I really can't make any decisions on mods or anything if I don't know what the latest and greatest is. I haven't updated Hot Utils in 3 hours. It says that right here. So, much like I showed you in this graphic here, this data is 3 hours old according to the game. I did this, but I did it 3 hours ago. I copied this stuff over. So we're going to use this option that I've shown you here, data fetched, right? And there's a little circle thing right here. Let me get the image out of the way. This little guy here says, go to the game and go get all the information so that Hot Utils is caught up to where I am in the game. So it has the latest mods that I've made, the latest any kind of mod maintenance I've done. It has all of that now in Hot Utils. Now, while I've done that, it's going to break my connection here. So I'm just going to bail out of the game while I'm waiting. And yeah, there we go. All right, so now it's refreshed. Now we're working with the most current data I have in game. Now Hot Utils knows about all my mods and all my roster. Okay, so important we have to do that right at the beginning. And now we have a sandbox at Hot Utils to do whatever we want without messing with the game itself. Okay, so now what we need to do is first to create a baseline. A baseline is going to be a safety measure, so we always have a way to get back to how we were originally configured. All right, so to make this worthwhile though, you have to get all your characters lined up the way you want them. And you're going to do that now based on what you know now. It's the same thing you would do before you would go into territory wars, right? You get all your relevant teams and you get all the best mods as you know on your most relevant teams. If this number for you is too high, if this is above 450, that means you have a lot of spare mods lying around. I would advise you to also go to your tunes in game that you don't really use and go fill up those empty spaces with mods so that this number gets lower. You need to have that under 450 because we're going to move a lot of mods here, and if we don't have the space, we're going to run into problems with that. So go do that also. So get your best teams modded up and get your storage, if you want to call them storage characters, get those guys filled enough to where this is under 450 out of 500. Okay, now with that done, let's just do the baseline to save your current setup. So we're going to take a snapshot here, and I'm going to go ahead and just do it. And what this is doing, it's going to tell me again it's going to break the game. It doesn't break the game, it's breaking the game connection. So yes, we want to do that.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, now that can take several minutes. As you saw there, it came back pretty quick there, but it can take several minutes. I mean, I just saved the snapshot of all the mods I have on 232 characters, and now I have a way to go back to square one by having this all the time. Notice it's also saying active, which means that right now it has nothing to do as far as trying to restore things because the snapshot it has completely mirrors what the game has. So that's a good baseline to have. Now we always have this to go back to. Okay. Okay, with all of that done, let's go ahead and now create a loadout. That's why you guys are all here. Here's the loadout. We do plus for a new. Give it a name. You can use anything. There's arbitrary ways to do this. I usually give it the team name or perhaps maybe the game event that's going on. If you use it for an assault battle or using it in a rote, you might put rote in here. If you sort it by the name, it makes sense because then all the rotes are together. Category is kind of up to you. You can use categories. I stopped using them because I do enough with the name that I can keep them grouped that way. And in here, it's usually helpful from what my experience is to put the characters in here. If it's just a team of 5, it takes 2 seconds to do this. And you get the idea. It's free form, but if you do this, you're going to be able to differentiate between your teams. You might have more than one loadout for Jedis, and if you don't put which 5 you're talking about here or which arrangement, you might not understand which loadout this is. And it's a pain to have to go in and look at the roster just of the loadout to try and figure out which one to use. So be expressive in here. It helps out a little bit. And then the thing I'll tell you is before you hit create loadout here is you have to uncheck this because it's going to by default put all the characters you own into this loadout. We don't need a 200 character loadout. There we go. So now nobody's in the loadout. We're telling the new loadout here that we're going to pick them ourselves. To add characters to the loadout is simply use the drop down and it'll show you all the factions that are in the game. That's the easy way. The other way you can do it is by searching. I can type in an abbreviation like this and see all the Ahsokas. If I hit enter, it just searched for Ahsokas and then there they all are. If you search for one that is a single character like Shaak Ti, there's only one in the game, right? It's a weirdness that if I hit enter here, it searched and found Shaak Ti, but it doesn't look like anything happened because you can't see Shaak Ti. You have to click away from this drop down. It's just the programming, the way they wrote the site. If I click over here, the drop down disappears and there's Shaak Ti, and now I can choose her to put her on the team. She's not going to be on a CLS team, but I just wanted to show you how that weirdness is with search. So let's just go ahead and get down to Rebels and get our CLS team built out. Here's Rebels. And your faction, your group here is going to look different based on where your Rebels currently are. This is in alphabetical order, so it's pretty easy to go grab everybody. So we want CLS, we want C-3PO, we want Han, 3PO and Chewie, and then we need Chewbacca by himself, right? So there's the 5. It shows me right here, 5 are selected. That's fantastic. And all we have to do now is create new loadout. And we've done the very first step, which is defining who is in the loadout. So that's part 1. Part 2 is we have to go in and edit this because we need to make some changes to this. We want to dial this in a little bit. So if you click on the edit button here, you can see here's our brand new one. It's got today's date on there. There's the text I typed in. And if you ever do need to edit any of this text, by the way, that's what this little pencil is for. It'll bring up the screen and you can edit all of this information later on. So don't feel like you only had one shot to do it there. So for now, we're going to edit the team, not edit the description. We're going to edit the team. Let's click that button. And there's 2 ways to view the team here. Hot Utils will usually you're going to spend most of your time in advance, so it starts here. But for the very first time you do a team, you have to do the basic view 1 time. And why is that important? Because this is the order in which it's going to place mods by priority. If you have a speed mod and it's going to go on a character that needs speed, it's going to go on this guy. And then once that mod's taken up, it's not available to anybody else downstream, right? So this is your preference, your order. So let's just say the C-3PO is our primary guy, but we want Han to be a little quicker than, or more important, not quicker, more important than CLS and on down the line, and we're okay with the structure. Good. So now let's save this, and that way it'll save the preference we want, the priority we want. Okay, so that's step 2. We've defined the characters, now we define the priority. So the top mods will go to the most important characters in our game. I don't want you to use this to save. I want you to go to File and hit Save down here and get used to that, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But get used to that process. So hit Save. Now we've defined who's on the team and we've defined the priority of the team. Now we're in this advanced screen. The order is the same, it's just vertical. This priority is the same as we showed on the basic screen. It shows the current mods. Notice that the character in the mod is actually the character that's currently on it. So these are the 6 mods C-3PO has in my game as of right now. Don't judge me, that's just where I've got C-3PO at the moment. Okay, so, and also notice the stats. These are the same stats you see in game: health, priority, speed, crit damage, etc. So that's available for everybody that's on the team. Now you're going to say we're going to start making some changes to these mods, and you're going to be curious as where does this mod plan come from? Real quickly, the coders and researchers, when they put Hot Utils together, did a lot of research and have a default definition for each character in the game. Every character is different, but they have a defined set of priorities for each character. If I click on the character, you can actually see what those are. I'll click on C-3PO and you can see speed and tenacity are the highest priority. I'm not going to spend any time on this, that's another video. But for Han, for example, his priority is crit damage. Okay, so I want you aware that there's some stuff happening behind the scenes. I'll save all that detail for another video. But there you go. But there is a plan, so when this thing gets automated and we get new mods on these characters, that now you know where it comes from. Another thing I want to explain here on this screen is perhaps you have a character that you do not want at all any new mods to be moved to it, or any of its mods used on someone else. Let's just say we'll go down here and make CLS. CLS has got this, maybe this is gospel. I want these 2 tenacities, I want these 4 offensive mods, and I want all of these locked down. And I don't want those be taken off CLS. I don't want them going on any tune. That's what this lock mechanism is for. So if I click lock on this guy, he turns green, and from now on he's always using this loadout. This loadout will always have these 6 mods on CLS. And no matter what we do to automate it or research or anything, it'll never change. It'll always be these 6. Now, even if you get a better offensive mod with more speed on this cross, for example, it will not place it there because you've told it it's locked. You may want to unlock it once in a while. Again, discussion for another video. But just so you know, this is important on some characters, and I know people are going to wonder. A great example of that would be Piet. I had to do a lot of work to get Piet just the right mod so he was fast enough. Jedi Knight Luke is another one. You do not want speed on him if he's going to be your lead, right? So another one you may want to lock down. And I'm saying I want him on this loadout, but I want his mods to be these specific 6 mods, and don't do any secondary calculation. I'm smarter than the tool. I want to use these 6 mods. And when we automate stuff, you'll see here, now we've locked down CLS and those won't change. So now you know how to do that. Okay, so all it really need to do now is, now that we know that there's a calculation happening behind the scenes and we've locked down the one we don't want to change, how do we actually get the mods placed on there from our entire roster? Well, here's how it happens. Simple button right here. Just click the automate button. It's going to confirm a few things. Don't worry about just use the defaults. Hit OK. Give it a few seconds, and it searched my entire mod database and made changes and suggestions for all of my characters in this loadout. So there's 6 new mods going on C3PO, 6 new ones going on Han. If you notice, no suggestions for CLS because we're leaving those alone. And then Chewie's get theirs. You can see the before and after over here on the right. This may not look intuitive at first, but this is where you are in the game at the moment. Remember, we haven't touched the game. And this is what it's suggesting you go to with what the priority and the research it did. For C3PO, he got way more speed, right? And his tenacity his tenacity went down a little bit, but his armor went up. We're not worried about special damage, so that went down. They didn't care about that. So you can see how it's making calculations for us. And on Han, we want to crit damage. The crit damage on Han I already had pretty high, yes. So there's no change to his crit damage. But in doing the calculation, it still found him more speed. It found him more health. And it found him, total health. It found more protection, and it found more health. So all in, I'll take that, right? There's the benefits. And you can see on the tunes here where those, if you're curious, where those mods actually came from. All right, so now we've modded the team. And now remember, this is just the loadout. We haven't done anything to the game yet, so nothing has changed. So now that we have all of these mods calculated and assigned to these characters for this loadout, we need to save it. So you want to go to File, and before you hit Save, there's one extra thing I need to make sure you understand here, is to turn on this one, Saved Lock Status in the loadout. Remember, I locked CLS, and if you don't do this, it's going to unlock it for the next time that you go in here. This is why you don't want to use this disk. You always need to go File, make sure you have this checked, and then save it. And now we've saved the 5 characters in the squad for the loadout. We've saved our priority for any future calculations that we do. And we've also saved this new configuration. Cool. All right, so now that all that's been defined, let's go ahead and apply the loadout. This will actually make a connection to the game and move those mods. So the way to do that is you first go to the loadout screen, and you can see the loadout we just created. It's CLS, it's got the date, the notes that you had. And remember that even moving mods in-game costs credits. Here it's actually showing me what the cost will be for me to move these mods. And so you simply click the load screen. You're sure you want to apply this, and you click OK. And it'll take a few seconds.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, now that we've moved those mods to the game, we did this last step up here. This is the thing we did. We did a bunch of changes here, and we just pushed them back over to the game. That's what this was for. Get that graphic out of there. Notice that the loadout itself is shaded blue, and that's to tell you that it's the one that's currently active. It's a great way to remember where you left off when you're moving mods around. And then if I go back to edit and I want to show you the example of how things moved. So when it made changes to C3PO, it wanted to put 4 speed mods and 2 defense mods on him. And if you look over in the game, that's exactly what he's got now. I opened this up after it was loaded just to show you that. So it's all taken place. All right, pretty cool. So let me go back to loadouts here. The other thing to notice here is that the base, our baseline that we took, our snapshot, now has an option here. It says restore. If you remember before, it said active because that's the game matched this baseline that we had taken of all 232 units. But now that I've made changes to the game, Hot Utils knows that this is what's not in effect anymore. So it's giving me the option to restore. So let's just say we used CLS, we're done with them, and we want to get back to square one and put all of our mods all the way back to the way they were. How do you do that? Right here, restore. It's going to cost me 184,000. Yes, that's fine. And it's going to do this task. And again, it's going to break the connection back to the game, but that's to be expected. This will take a few seconds. Okay, now with the baseline put back in place, you can see that the baseline again shows that it's active, and the CLS box is no longer blue because it's not the one that's active either, right? This is what's active. I just moved 30 mods with a single mouse click. That's pretty darn cool. So the last little thing I'll mention is, what do you do about maintenance? If you've done a bunch of changes to mods, or you've got some new mods from an event or anything, you've done slicing or what have you, how do you get those applied to be in the loadouts? And all you have to do is periodically, when you've done stuff like that to get your mods improved, come in here and just edit the loadout. And if you notice here, Luke is still locked down, so he's not going to get anything new. But go ahead and just do your automate again. And if you redo your automate, you'll get the newest, latest, and greatest. Make sure you also do a refresh before you do that, right? So that Utils has the latest snapshot of what you own in game. Go through and redo your automate, come back and also save it. And that way your loadout has the latest and greatest, and it's made the calculation to make sure the best mods are on the right tunes. Okay. So that's about it. That's the long and short of it. In the future, I'll do some videos about using really large loadouts with several teams on there. I'll do some stuff about fleets, and even more about mod maintenance, how to slice in here and use this tool for improving the mods themselves, and even finding mods you didn't know you had, stuff like that. So we'll cover that in the future. I hope this really helped you. Again, if there's any questions you have on deeper details, hit me up on Discord, and I'll see you on the next video.